woman had no existence but in the fiction of man. One would imagine her heroic and mean, splendid and sordid, beautiful and hideous, as great or greater than any man. But this is fiction. In fact, she was locked up, beaten and flung about the room. Imaginatively, she's important. Practically, she's insignificant. In fancy, she dominates the lives of kings. In reality, she's the slave of even the lowest boy. Some of the most profound words in literature fall from her lips. But in truth, she could barely read. She pervades poetry from cover to cover, yet she's absent from history. For Trevelyan, history is agriculture, the Crusades, the Wars of the Roses, the Renaissance, religious strife, and so on. Occasionally there's an Elizabeth or a Mary. But by no possible means could women with brains and character at their command have taken part in any of the great movements which constitute our history. But what of Elizabethan woman? She scarcely keeps a diary. She leaves no plays or poems. At what age does she marry? How many children has she? Has she a room to herself? Does she do the cooking? A few facts do lie in parish registers and scattered accounts, but it would seem odd on the little we know had one of them written the plays of Shakespeare. Impossible. Completely and entirely. But let's imagine what might have happened had Shakespeare had a wonderfully gifted sister. William Shakespeare, whose family are wealthy, goes to grammar school, learning Latin, grammar and logic. He is, it's known, a wild boy who has, rather sooner than he ought, to marry a woman in the neighbourhood who bears him a child, rather quicker than she ought. This escapade sends him fortune-seeking to London, his taste for theatre affording him success as an actor, living at the hub of the universe, meeting everybody, knowing everybody, practising his art, exercising his wits, and even getting access to the Queen. Meanwhile, his imaginary but equally gifted sister remains at home. No school for her, no grammar, no logic, no Latin. She picks up a book now and then, but her parents tell her to stop mooning about and get on with mending socks and making stew. She scribbles some pages on the sly, careful to hide or set fire to them. But before she's out of her teens, she's betrothed to the son of a neighbour. She cries out that marriage is hateful to her, and is thus severely beaten by her father, who then begs her not to shame him and break his heart. But she parcels up her belongings and goes to London. She has a gift, like her brothers, for the tune of words, and a taste, like him, for theatre. But at stage doors, men laugh in her face, bellowing something about poodles dancing. No woman, they say, could possibly be an actor. At last, actor-manager Nick Green takes pity on her. But she finds herself with child by him. And who shall measure the violence of the poet's heart when caught and tangled in a woman's body? Thus she kills herself one winter's night, and now lies buried and unremembered beneath some crossroads at the Elephant and Castle. If genius, like Shakespeare's, is only nurtured among non-labouring, educated people, how then could it flourish among women whose work was forced upon them before they were out of the nursery? How could it thrive within the working classes? It's true that now and again a Brontë or a Burns blazes out, but when one reads of a witch being ducked, or of a woman possessed by devils, then perhaps we're reading of a lost poet, some mute, inglorious Austen or Brontë who dashed her brains out on the moor, crazed with the torture of her stillborn gift. Any gifted woman of the 16th century might have ended her frustrated days in isolation, half witch, half wizard, feared and mocked. Had she survived, her work would be that of a deformed and strained imagination, all undoubtedly unsigned. Perhaps, for most of history, Anon was a woman.